in a world full of negative people. Hey man, I'm just trying to be a positive guy, a positive farmer, a positive outfitter. This is a Shark Farmer podcast with your host, Rob Sharkey. Whatever.
And welcome again to the Shark Farmer podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Rob Sharkey, and today we're going to go up to Michigan. We're going to talk to Suzanne Swift-Cook. How you doing, Susan?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I can't complain. What part of the Mitt are you from?
I'm actually just north of Grand Rapids, so it's kind of like Middle West-ish, I guess.
Middle West-ish. I think I learned that direction in grade school.
Yeah. That'd be like first grade, you know.
Talked to you, actually the second time I've talked to you this week. You have got yourself a YouTube channel. You're farming up there in Michigan. You're doing all sorts of neat things, but hey, do you got any of those grain bins up there on your farm?
We grow hay and we grow maple syrup. We do not do grain.
Don't you put maple syrup in bins?
You put that in bottles so that you can serve it at your dinner table. You could put it in a bin, but you need a giant stack of pancakes to use it with.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that Aunt Jemima.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you not like her because that's like fake syrup?
Funny, because I grew up in Aunt Jemima, actually with sugar-free syrup, and when I had the homemade stuff and tried going back, it was like toxic waste. I couldn't touch it. I was just like, what is this stuff? Yeah, I don't eat pancakes unless I've got the real stuff. I actually have tiny little bottles I take on vacation with me for that reason.
Oh, you're like the guy from Elf. You're like a syrup addict.
I am. I put it on burgers and everything.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
I put it on burgers.
You put your maple syrup on burgers.
Oh, yes. It is the best stuff ever. It's better than pancakes. So you either get some venison, ground venison into a burger or some home-raised grilled beef, and you grill it up, you get it all pressed up, and then you drizzle it over the meat patty, and then sometimes you put like some chipotle mayo on the top and maybe, you know, a couple little peppers or something, and man, it is to die for. It is so good. You have to try it sometime. But it's got to be the real maple syrup, not the Aunt Jemima.
I don't even know what to say right now. What you just described is like an abomination of food.
Oh, no, it is heaven. It is pure heaven.
A hamburger. Like a hamburger.
Yeah.
Bun,
yes,
burger, bun, syrup, and
maple
chipotle.
Syrup. Well, you got the sweet and then you got the spicy. I don't know. There's something about the maple syrup that brings out the salty flavor of the meat, and it just blends really well. I mean, have you ever dipped your sausages in maple syrup or your bacon in maple syrup?
That's getting a little personal, Susan.
Okay, well, it's a sweet idea. Yeah, I'm not feeling more like behind closed doors, but
I will not bash it because honestly, I thought waffles and chicken was going to be dumb, but that's actually pretty good. So I will reserve judgment until I try it. I will try it.
Yeah, definitely.
I understand a lot more about you now that I know that you've got this weird food thing going on. But let's go back to the grain bins. Unfortunately, every year there are people that get entrapped in grain bins. I'm sure you've heard about this.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of like the most devastating things that happens to an ag community because, I mean, it's just so heart-wrenching. And it's generally a younger kid or an older person. And it's just you sit there and you shake your head. And I can sit here and say, hey, it's so dumb to get in a bin or whatever. But, you know, if I got to be honest with myself, I've done a lot of stupid things involving a grain bin that I should have never done.
And I'm sure at the time that people thought it was something they had to do. They weren't just like, hey, I think I'm just going to jump in for fun.
Yeah, exactly. You think it's something simple. You're going to get in there. And then, unfortunately, it takes a life. But there is a movie producer from New York City called Samuel Goldberg. And he heard about this. This guy's got no ag background at all. He said something has to be done, so he decided to make a movie about this, an independent film. It's about 75 minutes. It's called Silo the Film. Have you ever heard of it?
I think they were advertising it, the farm show in, was that Ohio, Illinois?
Probably.
Yeah, Farm Progress Show, they were talking about it.
Oh, yeah, the Farm Progress Show, Ohio. It gets confusing because there's two Farm Progress shows.
Oh, there's a lot of farm shows. Yeah. It's
Well, that's actually where my wife and I saw it, was at the Farm Progress show in Illinois, and they were doing a screening there, and I was blown away because I don't know, Susan, you know how you see some of these like independent films and they're all right, a decent story, but you know the acting's not that good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
He got some incredible actors for this, and then he was like going through all their biographies and that. I mean, these people have been in like House of Cards, Game of Thrones.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, so we're talking some serious heavy hitters of acting. And they did an incredible job of not only portraying the story, but getting it pretty accurate as far as agriculture, because my favorite farm movie is Son-in-Law, but honestly, it's not that accurate when it comes to farming. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. At this point, are you really anxious to see it?
Yeah, I am kind of curious now. I mean, I didn't know what the movie, they didn't really advertise what the movie was about that I saw coming through. Having had people in our own community that have gotten trapped in silos and seen just a little bit here and there on the news, I think it's definitely worth watching and just kind of getting a better feel for, you know, the research they did. And
I'm sure at this point you're asking yourself, how do I see it, Rob?
I am, Rob. How do I see it?
Well, here's the thing. You can't just go to the old rave or the AMC. You've got to get a screening for this because it's the Hollywood. Those guys in Hollywood, they own everything, but they don't let the small guys have any of the fun.
No, they don't.
No.
They don't.
But this guy's cracking through the wall. You know what I'm saying? So you get a screening. You go to silothefilm.com, the website. Do you go to any of these meetings like over the winter and summer, like your bank meetings, your Farm Bureau meetings, your whatever meetings? Do you go to any of those?
No, I don't. We're just hay farmers, so we don't really have any meetings that we go to.
Yeah, no, that's not the answer. You don't go to them because they're boring, right? Because they get the same old meteorologist has been there for 20 years, and they're paying him about the same amount as it would cost to do a screening of this film. If your local ag bank or whatever was having a movie and they said, hey, we're going to have this, you'd probably go, oh, well, that would be interesting.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, see how it is? See, people? You get people like Susan coming, and then everybody will want to come. In fact,
especially if I bring syrup for burgers.
Well, I don't know about that. In fact, my friends, the Normans down in Texas, did it for a customer appreciation meeting. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Silothefilm.com, about the same price as you're going to pay for a speaker for the meeting. Unbelievable message, and it could very well save a life. All right, Suzanne Swift-Cook, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you get to where you are?
All right. Well, it started a couple years ago. I think it was June of 2017. I had spent 2 years writing, drafting, and editing a memoir about my first year surviving on the farm that we built from scratch. And it was just vacant land. We had 6 kids stuffed into a camper through the middle of winter. The snow was 3 feet high. I mean, it's just insane stuff. That
Whoa! What? You can't start there. I don't even know. You have 6 kids, or you are one of 6 kids?
Between Eric and myself, we had 6.
Oh.
So he had 4 of his own, and I had 1, and then we had 1 together. So it was a total of 6 kids that we started with on the farm.
Okay, you're talking like a mixed marriage, and together you guys have 6 kids.
Yes, that is correct. We are now down to 3.
3. You know, that's the Brady Bunch.
Yes, it is.
This one day, this lady met this fella, and they knew it was much more than a hunch.
And they became the Brady Bunch.
That's right. All right. Did you say you were in a camper?
Yeah, we were living in a camper because we couldn't get anyone to build a house on our property at the time because it takes time. Yeah, it was just many unfortunate events that occurred that led us to staying in a camper through the dead of winter with no electric and no water and the porta potty outside.
Okay,
so
no, because I feel like we're at one of those movies where they show you the clip like of the present day, and then they go back and give you all the background stuff. First of all, did you grow up on a farm?
No, I didn't. I grew up in a city. It was a small town. It was a farming community, but it was one of those things that the farming aspect of it was pushed behind closed doors. Nobody wanted to look at it. Farming was very looked down upon in our school.
Really? Like it was not a good thing?
It was just not cool. They were the pigs. They were the kids that were just like kind of hillbilly.
I gotcha.
So it's kind of ironic how came from that background and then came into now the farming background.
How did you meet your husband?
Eric, I met on Match.com.
Did you really?
He wasn't a farmer either. Yeah, I did.
That's awesome. I imagine you probably did not hit a home run the first time with Match.com.
I had a couple different guys I was looking at. I had just started, and Eric had actually lied about his age. So he wouldn't normally have even turned up in my bracket, but he kept harassing me. He's like, hey, we should go on a date. Hey, we should go on a date. I'm like, I don't know. And then finally, the one guy I was supposed to go on a date with fell through. And I'm like, well, if you want, you can hang with me and my friends on New Year's. We're going out downtown. And so he did. And that's just kind of how it started.
It's very romantic.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so how did it break down? Who had what number of kids?
Eric had 4 kids. He had a daughter from his first marriage that was a stepdaughter, and then he had 3 biological children from that marriage. And then I had 1 daughter from my first marriage, and then we had a son between us.
Okay.
So it was a total of 6.
Yeah, in a camper.
In a camper, yes.
How does that even work?
Well, you just stuff them in and shut the door.
That's pretty much what you would have to do. Did you have the bathroom in the camper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we had a bathroom in the camper, but because we didn't have a septic system, we really couldn't use it. I mean, we used the shower, but like the toilet, we had to get a porta potty for outside.
Okay. How long did you guys live like this?
Let's see. It would have been from August until the end of December because we moved out of that and into our double wide pretty much December 31st. I can't give away a lot of the details because it's in the memoir, and that would kind of give away the whole book because the whole premise of it is what's going to happen? They're in the middle of winter. Are they going to die and freeze to death? But, I mean, we had 2 generators and both of them blew, so we had no heat at all, and it was just down to the wire.
Well, I'm assuming that you survived since you're talking.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yep, we did survive.
Okay.
We came through.
Spoiler alert. Okay.
No, this is actually a pre-recorded message from 2 years ago.
I won't interrupt you anymore. Okay, so you're living in a trailer. You got 6 kids stacked like cordwood, and then what? I
decided to write a memoir on the whole experience, and this was my first experience with farming, was not only surviving with 6 kids in a camper, but learning how to drive a farm LC that had a sickle bar cutter on it that did not work very good. And I had a 6-month-old baby that I had to strap on the front of me while I'm cutting the hay, and everything's falling apart. And I had no experience in fixing anything. So I'm sitting here in the middle of the day with a baby trying to figure out how to fix something. So that's how the memoir was born. But the problem I ran into is after I went through and drafted it, I started soliciting the idea to agents, because that's what you do when you write a book. You approach the agent.
Uh-huh.
But all of the agents said that there is no market for anything related to farming or agriculture. Now, keep in mind, this is a memoir. This isn't a book on how to fix your tractor or why tractors are awesome. This is a memoir about my experiences farming.
Mm-hmm.
But they felt that nobody could identify with that. So I thought, that's a little strange. I can't imagine that that's at all correct. Now, at this point, we had just gotten the internet, which was 2 years after we moved onto the property. And Eric was a huge fan of YouTube. All the car channels he watched, all different sorts of stuff. And he was like, you should just start a YouTube channel. That'd probably be way more popular. I was like, I don't know. But then when I thought about it, it kind of made sense, because if people liked watching all of my failures and all of the comedy and the craziness of what's currently going on the farm, then maybe they'd also like all the craziness from way back when it first began. So I did it as kind of a test pilot for my book.
And let me see if I get this straight. So you wrote a book. They didn't want it, so you started a YouTube so that you could create a demand for your book. Is that anywhere close?
Yes, that is pretty close. It was both to create the demand for the book, because I can create my own audience, but also to see if there was an interest level. If I could see that people liked watching my adventures in agriculture, then there's a good chance they'd also be interested in my book. So it was a double whammy. Not only did I prove the publishers wrong, but I have also now created a fan base, if you will, for people that would be interested in my book.
That is the thing about social media and about the internet. It allows anybody to have a platform. And if you're good, if you are entertaining or interesting or whatever, you can get a following no matter what anybody says. You don't have to rely on anybody else to say, farming is not what people want to say. You can put it out there and you can find out what the people want to hear.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of YouTube, is that you get real feedback. I mean, you get people coming back saying, well, I find this interesting. I don't like that so much. I like how you edited this. I don't like that. So even learning like how to edit your videos also gives you a better idea of how to better edit your writing. Because the two kind of go hand in hand. You have to make it punchy, you have to make it grab their attention at the beginning, and you kind of want to hold them all the way through and have it resolve at the end. So by learning to be a better storyteller with YouTube, it's also teaching me to be a better storyteller with writing.
How bad were your first videos?
I don't think they were, like, honestly terrible, because I had actually been shooting videos for YouTube long before that, but I just never put them out there.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of was one of those things I thought, this would be cool to put on YouTube for a how-to. So it wasn't awful, but I think the music was probably the hardest. Trying to get the right music and learning how to adjust the volume. Because it is a little bit of tweaking, you know.
Did you steal the music?
You have to. So did I steal music?
Yeah.
No.
You didn't?
No, I used the YouTube music.
Is that what? Are you just saying that so people don't check?
No, I didn't. I knew that you couldn't use mainstream music.
Okay.
I think they had a thing on that. Because prior to that, people had been. There's something I read that you couldn't do that you're going to get demonetized. But there was a way around it. You could use, for a while, you could use under 30 seconds of a music clip and it wouldn't get caught. But I think if you go through and you use 10 seconds, I've done 10-second mashups where I use 10 seconds of a clip and put 10 seconds of a different clip. And that doesn't usually get pulled or flagged or anything.
I feel obligated to turn you in now.
I think legally you can if it's under 10 seconds. I think that's the freedom of use clause or something like that.
These videos, when you were putting them out there, I mean, what were you showing?
Let me see. The first video was kind of showing the animals on the farm, and then I think the first couple pretty much was cutting hay.
Mm-hmm.
Getting different clips of the hay getting cut and kind of the calamities that were happening. That's what I was just doing hay. I was cutting hay, raking hay, baling hay.
You said a farm all C?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So
we used it the first year.
For people that don't know, I mean, that's an older tractor, no cab, open air, and you strap the baby on you and just went out and raked hay with that?
Yeah, I went out and cut hay with that. We had a sickle bar cutter, which is a really old piece of equipment that, horses used to pull it. This thing did not cut worth a crap. I mean, we had really thick, overgrown hay fields that hadn't been cut in probably 5 years. And this thing would go 2 feet, and it would just bind right up.
Uh-huh.
So I'd have to jump off, pull all the chunks of hay out, kick them off to the side, and go another 2 feet. It was tough, but, we did it.
Was your husband a farmer?
No, Eric was not a farmer. But he did grow up next to his grandparents' farm, and he would, as a kid, go over and help them on occasion. So that tractor actually was his grandpa's original tractor that he had kept at his mom's house and kept it in good shape, hoping to someday use it. We did. We put it to use that first year.
Okay. You and your husband both aren't farmers. what was the catalyst for you guys starting a farm?
Well, at the time originally, we lived in a housing development, and I think Eric had like 3 acres, and we just did our thing, but it was part of a housing association, and they changed presidents. And somewhere this new president found 100 different things that we were violating, and he started slapping fines on us for everything.
Oh, he's a dick.
And yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And Eric said that originally he had gotten in a bidding war for the house that Eric owned, and the guy lost the bid and ended up having to buy a different house that wasn't as nice.
He's a jealous dick.
So Eric and I say this was his way of getting back.
Gotcha.
So we're like, well, forget this. Let's just go move out in the country. Well, we couldn't find anything in the country that had a house and 10 acres. There just wasn't anything available. And unfortunately, our house sold within a week of listing it. So
did that guy buy it?
Strapped. No, he didn't.
Oh, okay.
No, because we would have raised the price for him if that were the case. Extra $200,000 for you. We looked at a lot of different things. We looked at HUD houses. There was just nothing out there. And then our realtor said, "Oh, by the way, I don't know if you'd be interested, but here's a chunk of 87 acres. It's vacant, but it's been sitting here for sale for 20 years. And Eric saw it and was like, "Yeah, I must buy this." And so we sat down and talked about it, and I'm like, okay, this is way more land than we need. We wanted 10 acres. If we're going to have this much land, we're going to have to make it work for us because we got to pay taxes on it. So he's like, no, that's fine. I've got my grandpa's old tractor. We can cut the grass for hay and sell it, and we'll just start a hay business. So I'm like, okay, I don't know anything about this. This is going to be your project, your research, and so it was. I mean, he went out, he researched it, he sent me off to go buy all the equipment, and somehow I ended up getting stuck doing it all.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're generation 1 farmer.
Exactly, yes. Yep.
Okay. A lot of people say that is almost impossible these days. I mean, now, is it a deal where you were just like doing this on your own ground where you wanted to build a house? Or is this something that you want to continue to grow and actually, grow the farm?
It would be nice to grow the farm. Unfortunately, in our area, there's not a lot of land available, so we would have to rent land. The price is just going through the roof. It's insane. But renting isn't that bad, and a lot of guys do renting out there. So we're growing as much as we can on our property. We went from 10 acres to 20 acres last year, and we're trying to get the hay growing in a little bit better this year. So we should have a good solid 20 on our own property that we can cut. But much of our property is wooded, so that allowed us to cross product into maple syrup. So that's where the maple syrup comes from, is putting the woods to work, because it's not just making the flat land pay its profit, but making the woods pay its profit. So maple syrup doesn't have as high of a return value than hay does, but every little bit helps when you're on a farm.
I'm assuming that these are maple trees. I'm hoping that these are maple trees.
Well, occasionally I have an oak, but that doesn't really give me anything. About approximately 800 maple trees or 800 taps that we could put in. I think the most that we've done was 250 one year, and that was on bucket. And I had to empty all those buckets myself. So, yeah, you can imagine how that went. Not doing that many buckets ever again.
That sounds like a lot of buckets. And you're just, you put the tap in the tree, you hang the bucket, and then you come back the next day and you collect it, and then you make it into syrup?
We actually had 5-gallon buckets, and they were on the ground because they're too heavy to hang. It's almost about 50 pounds that you have to carry. And you have to carry it over to your container, and your container isn't right by the tree because you can't, in other words, you can't drive up to every tree. It's a little too congested. So we end up losing a lot of sap by carrying the buckets, dumping them in, and also carting that to the main station where it's being housed. We probably lost at least a third of it just with moving it.
The spilling and stuff.
So, Yeah. So last year we went through and we did a test run with 100 taps on a vacuum system.
Yeah.
And even though it had its own set of issues, holy cow, it was so much less work, and it was just, night and day difference.
It sounds like it sucks.
Well, on good days it sucks.
Yeah, I get it. It's a play on words. I've seen those, and the ones that I've seen, it just got like a ton of hose, like miles of hose that you run to the trees, and then it all goes to the central location.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, yep. And it's like veins in your arm. You've got like main central arteries, and then you've got, capillaries and stuff that come off from that. And that's how it is with the maple lines. You've got a central tube that everything connects into, and then those branch off into other things. So it just all carries it down to one container.
Okay, and then the whole process of taking the sap and making it into syrup, you guys do that yourselves?
Yep, I go through and I split the wood. We cut up trees from the backwoods, haul them back to the house, split them into tiny, tiny little chunks, because the smaller you can split them, the faster and hotter they will burn. Yeah, it takes a lot of time to split them down tiny, like 2 inches in diameter, tiny.
Mm-hmm.
But you pay for it with less cook time, because previously it would take me 12 hours to cook down 250 gallons of sap. And last year I knocked it down to 6 hours it took me to cook 250 gallons of sap. So that's a major time difference right there.
And this might be offensive to you. I'm not sure. I'm going to ask it anyway. But take me back to little Susan. I mean, what kind of girl were you? Because now you're doing all this work, right? And there's a stereotype, where like if you grow up on a farm or you grow up on a family that's really going to make you work as a kid, that this is no problem. Was that the situation, or is this all brand new to you?
I don't know. It's kind of different. Like, we lived in the city, but we lived right on the edge, and my parents have probably 50 acres of state property, like right off their backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So my sister and I grew up in the woods. I mean, I'd find like animal skulls and turtle shells, and I just thought that was the coolest thing as a kid growing up, finding all these like animal bits. And I thought, someday I'm going to get some animal skins and I'm going to turn them into clothing. And so that's kind of like the mentality I grew up with. Yeah, my mom was a really hard worker. She did all of the yard work, all of the maintenance. Anything my dad did around the house, she would help him with. So she was very hands-on, and that's kind of what I grew up seeing. So I guess it was kind of a natural crossover for me to do that same thing as an adult.
Who's buying all this stuff, your hay and your syrup?
The syrup I sell at Swappies, and a lot of it I sell online. My subscribers buy a lot of it, and I've run out this year, and I've already had people asking about buying it for 2020. As far as the hay goes, I don't really ship hay out of state, but we have a lot of horsey people that come and buy it. And the biggest problem I have is not overselling, because quite often I'll sell too much and then I end up having to buy hay. And it's usually for twice of what I sold it for, and it's bad quality. So,
yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but I kind of wondered, because you said you had animals, and I know how that goes. It's like, we're going to have a hay business, but, we still end up buying hay.
Oh, they're eating it. Yeah. Oh, yes, I know. And that's the killers, when you have to buy it.
Do you have your kids out helping you?
We tried to. The first year we did have them out. I mean, all the fencing, like we all worked together to put it in.
Mm-hmm.
But, for kids that aren't raised on a farm, they need a lot more patience and a lot more encouraging. There are certain people that kind of push them a little bit more harder than probably would have been good for their skill level.
Mm-hmm.
And so they instantly developed a bad taste in their mouth for everything on the farm. They didn't want to be on the farm. They didn't want to have friends over to visit the farm. Yeah, the only kid that really has taken an active role in the farm has been our youngest son, Aaron, who is 6. And he loves all the animals, and he's out there in the tractor a lot of times, and he'll really stick around and help out. But the kids do help out with hay. Not that they like to, but, they'll stack it in the barn. When we twist their arm into it.
When you make them. No phone until you stack the hay. Yeah, we do that too.
Yeah.
Let's shift back to your YouTube and why you're doing it, because I've watched some of them and you're like going to other farms and learning how to do other things. I mean, what's the purpose behind that?
When I started the YouTube channel, I realized that my viewers had a lot to teach me, and they have some really good advice. And it really kind of opened my eyes, and I said, most farmers have somebody else to learn from, but we don't. We have nobody. We don't have any friends that farm. Our neighbors aren't really involved in it, and we just have nobody to look to. The more I talked with people, the more I realized that there's a lot involved in farming, and it would be cool to see how other people are doing it and why they do it. Because so many farms are shutting down, they're getting out of it, the kids aren't continuing on the tradition. So I thought, this would be really cool to cover in a YouTube series. Teach a farm girl. So teach me something about your farm. Increase my knowledge and I guess maybe inspire a new generation to take up farming. And so that's kind of been fun, like going around to different farms and talking to people, really getting to know their operation and why they chose different equipment and different types of crops. There's just so many different aspects in farming that we kind of overlook.
What do you do? Do you just say, hey, I'm Susan, I'm insane, I've got a YouTube, and I want to come learn from you?
Yeah, sometimes I do. There's one guy that I had all my equipment in the car with me, and I pulled up to his farm hoping to schedule an interview, and he goes driving by in this big, giant dually tractor. And I told him my idea. He said, well, you can hop in right now if you want. And so I did, and that was my dually tractor team in the mud video. And that was 2 tractors that were connected with a chain going through chopping corn because it was so muddy. It was just one of those things that they just happened to be doing it that day. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it is, going up to them in person saying, hey, this is who I am. Here's something to think about. I'd like to interview you. Some of it is calling people, emailing them. It's been tough because a lot of farmers are very reclusive. Yeah. They don't like a lot of attention, and they really don't think that what they do is that inspiring. They think it's boring. They know that it has a significance, but they tend to downplay it.
I think that's a lot of truth that people don't realize, is that farmers just don't think what they're doing is interesting to anybody else.
Right, and that's why sometimes they just push the kids off the farm. Go get a career. Go make some money. You don't want to be doing that.
I am kind of shocked that you just stop somebody and say, hey, I want to film you. I mean, that's got to take some guts.
Yeah. And the other one that I did was, the Michigan corn one. That was another one. I had been talking to their sister a couple different times saying, hey, can you have them call me? Hey, can you have them call me? And she's like, well, they're out in the field. They're out in the field. So finally, I'm just like, is there any chance you can give me their number and I'll call them? Maybe I can even go out there today. And so they did. It just I called him up. He's like, well, we're over here if you want to join us. So I jumped on over and rode with them for about an hour and shot the footage and talked to them about their operation. And we're looking at trying to set something up with either their pig operation or their cow operation. Mm-hmm. Again, they have a large animal operation. And so there's a lot of concern when you're that big that things are being told accurately and that people aren't going to slant it the wrong way.
That's what, yeah, they have to trust you. And that's why it surprised me that when you just show up that people would, because I'm trying to put myself in their situation. If you showed up, okay, I don't want to be offensive, but you don't necessarily look the type of that would be a farm girl. You know what I'm trying to say? So I would think, would, in the back of my mind, I would be like, I wonder if she's got an agenda, if this is some environmental nut or some animal rights nut that's trying to act all friendly. So, I'm glad that these people trusted you.
Yeah, some of them, I think, sometimes they actually have heard of me. They've got family members that watch, and they're just like, do you do a YouTube channel? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, I think I've heard of you. So that definitely helps. But other times, they just aren't involved in social media or YouTube. And so then they're like, I don't watch YouTube. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. So then I do try to give them some time. I give them my, my YouTube address and say, hey, check it out, And I give them the option too. If you want me to preview the video to you first before I release it, and there's anything you want to change, I have no problem with that. Because the bottom line is, I want people to enjoy the experience. I want them to feel like it represents a good point in their farming career at that moment. You know, it gives them something to look back on and laugh at or smile at. You know, like the guy that dumped cab corn all over.
Yes.
But I still have people coming to me asking about.
That was actually a video that we featured in a TV show. That was fantastic.
I felt so bad for him. He got a couple people like knocking on him, but it happens, you know, and it's just unfortunate at that exact moment that it just gushed the way it did, and that's part of farming, and that's one of those things that you can look back at and just smile and be like, yep, been there, done that.
Oh, anybody that's ever run a combine and says they have not spelled corn is lying.
Oh, great. I know it. I see videos all over YouTube. Oh, we did it, got the cab corn. Yeah, but I mean, that's the bottom line. Is with all of these videos, I want the farmers themselves to feel happy about the process. I don't want to be like making them feel uncomfortable or pressured or, you know, coming out with a bad taste in the mouth. Because the idea is to get the word out there about farming.
You've got to be doing something right, because you're sitting at about 50,000 subscribers to a YouTube channel. I mean, so you've got a lot of people that are watching you. Would you say the majority of them are farm or non-farm?
You know, YouTube doesn't give me stats on that. It just gives me like stats as to male versus female. But I would say probably half of them either are farmers or were farmers, and the other half are probably city people. So that would be my guess. But like I said, it's kind of impossible for me to judge on that. It'd be more like 60-40, like 60% farming, 40% city. I don't know.
I find it very difficult to connect with people outside of the farm. Do you think you have an advantage not growing up on a farm to do that? I
think I do. I mean, I can understand where people are coming from as far as their stigma against farming, because that was me years ago. So I guess it kind of allows me to be like an intermediary, to like bring the two sides together and say, okay, let's look at this. Let's break it down so that these people can better understand it, and also have them understand the significance of helping the farmers. Because a lot of people don't realize that they can help out in farming communities by either volunteering at farms or buying their products or any number of ways like that. And everything you can do to help American farmers right now is just gold.
Okay, I'm going to ask you an uncomfortable question. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
All right. You weren't in ag. You're in ag now. What can you tell farmers that they need to know that they're doing wrong when it comes to talking to consumers?
As far as like buying their products or the significance of farms?
Any of it.
I think what they really need to break down is that farmers are not evil. I know they try to put it out there that, well, we're doing this, we're doing that, but a lot of people look at farmers as people that play in the environment, people that water animals. They don't care about their animals. They're just all crammed together. I think farmers need to kind of break it down a little bit more and say, look, here's an issue we saw. Here's how we fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
I know Millennial Farmer did a really great video on drain tiling, which I didn't know anything about. I mean, I knew about drain tiling, and I knew people were like, oh my gosh, you know, the nitrates in the water. And he tested his own drain tile, and he said, there's less nitrates in my drain tile than there is in this freshly opened bottle of water. For me, that was mind-blowing. That did it. I'm just like, okay, you know what, this is what we need. We need more information being put out there like that. Different issues farmers are facing and how they're looking at fixing those. Because a lot of people think farmers just want to throw chemicals out there. Oh, they're just going to spray everything around us. That's never how it is. Farmers have a problem, and they're trying to find the best solution for that problem. And I think breaking that down to people is really going to help turn favorability in their direction.
I do like that you do come from a different background. We have a lot of good people out there that are showing this stuff that have got farm backgrounds and sometimes don't realize what non-farm people don't know. I am just as guilty as anybody else from that. So you're doing a good job. What's the plans for the future?
I'm really going to dig hard into the Teach a Farm Girl series. I want to start covering like many different aspects in agriculture, because I know a lot of YouTube is mostly on the grain farming, and I think it'd be nice to kind of showcase, vegetables. We've got vegetable producers, people that put down manure for a living, and the different ins and outs of that. We've got, apple orchards, we've got peach orchards, we've got blueberry orchards. It's just so many different things to like really kind of break down and open up to get people interested into buying locally and trying to find that local produce at their supermarket. And also, I got to get my memoir published. That was my goal for 2020, is to get that puppy out there and get it done and then move on to my fictional stuff that I'm going to do. So I'm really looking forward to starting that up this year and getting that in the hands of my subscribers. I'm going to do an audio version of the book because I had a major request for that, so that the guys that are in the field, in the tractors, they can listen to it while they're driving, just like your podcast.
Why don't you just publish it? Just do it yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to publish it on Amazon. I'm going to do the self-publishing with that, and I'm going to record my own audio version of it, and I'll have both of those. And I'm hoping we'll be all set to go by the end of 2020.
Okay, maybe you can correct me here, and because YouTube is not my forte. I mean, I watch it, but I'm not like in that inner circle like you are.
Right.
So
yeah.
I know there's a ton of ag stuff out there, and I didn't really realize until I was looking for content on YouTube, and I'm like, okay, I've got a guy, got all guys. How few women agriculture YouTubers were out there? Am I just not finding them, or is that the way it is?
It's probably a little bit of both. Actually, when I first started YouTube in 2017, I couldn't find any farming channels, period. I didn't think there were any. And I started to panic, thinking that I was going to be alone. So I started off in the homesteading community, but I just kind of felt like a black sheep because I'm running tractors and they're doing stuff by hand. And I stumbled upon One Lonely Farmer and How Farms Work. And I realized that there are other farming channels out there. And so from then I found Big Tractor Power and, Millennial Farmer started popping up soon after that, and Walker Farms. There were a couple other female YouTubers that had been going for years and years and years, probably 10 years. So they were out there, but I think the biggest thing was just networking, is just getting involved with other farming channels and not being an island.
Yeah.
But they're slowly starting to pop up a little bit more of the female farming channels. It's hard because, if you're not the one that's doing the work, then you have to be there all the time when your husband's doing the work and trying to get video on him. And you've got kids at home, you've got a house to take care of. It's a tricky balance.
YouTube looks easy. I'm sure it is.
Oh, yeah. You just click a button and there it goes.
Yeah, you just film yourself. Duh.
Yeah. You just stick a camera in your head.
All right, Susan, I want you to tell everybody where they can find you on all the social medias.
Pretty much every social media, I'm under WT Farm Girl, and sometimes or WT Farm Space Girl. Sometimes it's all one word, so just play around with it. But it's WT Farm Girl, especially YouTube. So, yep.
You're going to have to change that, though, because Leslie, Kelly, and I are going to sue you.
Okay, now I was thinking about that the other day.
Uh-huh.
And when did you actually coin your series, What the?
What?
Yeah, when was the year and when was the month? Because I'm going to bet you that I had it before you.
We did it in 1996.
No, you didn't. They didn't have podcasts back then.
We totally did. Yeah. Well, I was a forward thinker. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you have to change your entire brand. Sorry.
Maybe I'll just have to incorporate underneath yours.
Well, I mean, yeah, but then all proceeds go to me.
Well, at least I can publish my book under my own name.
No, I've got that too.
So you also have Suzanne Swift. Right?
Yes, yeah. See, I got it all. Yeah, I just back in the '90s. Yeah, when websites were coming up, I just started grabbing everything: Pepsi, Coke, IBM. Yeah, I got it all.
Yeah, you were getting ready for the 2000 millennial breakdown, weren't you?
Exactly. Hey, Susan, you do an interesting job. I like your videos. They're very, very, very well shot. They're very well edited.
Oh, thank you.
You've got a different aspect on agriculture that I think is fresh. I think it's good. And I see this only growing for you in the future.
I really hope so. And it's been fun, like, meeting all the different people and especially learning the different aspects about agriculture. So I'm really looking forward to, like, getting more farms on board and more interviews and seeing what else we can learn.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see it. So, Suzanne Swift-Cook, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and everybody else. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you for listening to the Shark Farmer Podcast. I am your host, Rob Sharkey. Please visit us at www.sharkyfarms.com. And just search for Shark Farmer to follow me on Twitter. Later.